While modeling is fairly straightforward, texturing is more abstract, in that you can't just copy the exact shape of something. Instead, you have to work on your textures until they just feel right. At the end of the day, all you do is paint the correct color and make sure light reflects accurately. Which sounds easy enough, but especially when it comes to light reflection, it can become a stupidly complex process with dozens of nodes and files being tangled up left, right and center, which I won't bore you with right now. Instead, we will get some decent materials as quickly as we can before you all fall asleep. Quite frankly, there are two parts to a realistic render, and modeling is not one of them. Texturing and lighting are the heart and soul of a good image. The actual shape of the model doesn't really matter at all. I won't be talking about rendering in this video, because that will come later. Instead, I will show you how we create the texture files applied to the models, and the type of texture maps we use, and how, and why. To paint the textures, we usually use Substance Painter, aka what you're looking at right now, which is like Photoshop, but in 3D. If you don't know what Photoshop is, then sorry, but you're not qualified to watch my channel and you should leave. Make sure you like and subscribe before that though. As I said in the previous video, despite of my best efforts, I couldn't hold myself back from properly laying out the UV shells. I will do anything for an extra 10 pixels of resolution. And since I was back in Maya anyway, I added a few more edge loops to the model so that the geometry and the textures would hold a bit better when subdivided. Now back to Substance Painter. You have to take my word for it when I say that the reference images are on my other monitor and I'm actually using those and not just winging it. So trust me, I'm doing my best here. So don't go too hard on me if it is not 100% accurate. It's not due to a lack of effort, okay? It's due to a lack of talent. In this video, I will only use already existing Substance Painter materials and make some modifications to those. Normally, when you create your textures, you have to put a tad bit more effort into it. So don't be fooled by how easy it seems when I do it, because I'm really underselling texturing artists here. The handle seems to be a brown leather material, so I grabbed one of the preset ones and applied it to the entire hammer. You can see in the top right that the elements of the material exist in a folder, and instead of painting it only to the relevant parts, I flood the whole image with them, then apply a black mask to the folder itself. A black mask hides everything that it is added to, and when I paint white on the mask, the layers underneath will be revealed. It is like putting a black piece of paper on top of a painting, then cutting sections out of the black paper, revealing the painting. This way, I can change the material however I want in the future without affecting where it is applied to. For example, if later on I decided that I wanted the handle to be bright pink velvet, then I can easily change the contents of the folder and it will still all be good. And as you can see, I did the same thing with the gold rings and the steel caps. This is my general workflow, as it makes things a lot more adaptable for everything. Essentially, I just mark where I want my textures to be. Then I can do whatever I want with the texture itself. And I use this technique within the texture folders too, for colors, materials, roughness, and yeah, I'm just like generally the biggest fan of masks ever. So my Google search says that Mjolnir is made of Uru, which, as we all know, is the 356th element on the periodic table, right next to vibranium and adamantium. Now, I don't know why, but it seems like despite its everyday use, Uru is not a standard material in Substance Painter, so I have to eyeball it. After making some thorough measurements and in-depth analysis, I decided to go with steel and 2 layers of dirt. For dirt, I added a layer with darker color, more roughness, then once again used a mask. In this case, it is not a pure black and white mask, but a mix of grey shades, resulting in the pattern you see. At the corners, we seem to have the same material except it's darker. So I copied the original one, made it a bit darker and changed the mask to reveal the correct areas. The embossed parts are a bit trickier to make, but nothing we can't handle. As it would be too complex to actually model those onto the geometry, we can use a height map that will displace the geometry during render time. You will see it later, but it's really cool stuff. So to add the correct pattern, I'm creating an alpha brush, which works very similarly to the alpha mask we used before. Paint will only be applied where my brush is white, so I drew up the shape in Photoshop, which I know is a far cry from Mjolnir's original pattern, so no need to flood the comment section with "I am betraying Mjolnir, Thor and the entire Marvel universe", okay? I know it, and I'm loving it. And now you can see how the alpha brush works, and once I did all that, I can work on the height map. As I'm moving the slider in the bottom right, the geometry is extruding or intruding, and that will actually render with displaced geometry. This way I don't have to spend endless hours modeling such fine details. Instead, I can just draw it on. Nice and lazy, just how I like it. I will show you soon how it actually works, but first, let's just finish the texturing. All I have left is the top part, which seems to be a darker and shinier version of the same material, so I quickly modified the uru. I did the engraving on the top the same way I did the embossing before. A nice alpha brush with the perfect English translation of the Asgardian text, and we're good to go! Plank on the text, intrude it, and it has the mighty power of texturing. And all those who like the video and subscribe to the channel will be worthy of its powers too. Lastly, I added some dirt for the whole of it, which really tied the hammer together. And now you can see how what I painted onto the 3D object is actually translated onto the 2D plane, forming a standard image that I can export and re-import back into Maya. Let's run through the maps we created. This is the base color map, which is, well, clue is in the title, the base color. And you can kinda see what's going on, where the leather will be and where the gold and steel are. This next one is the metalness map. This is a luminance map, meaning completely white means one end of a given spectrum and black means the opposite end. In this case, white is completely metal and black is not metal at all. This is the normal map, which we won't add right now, but it can create the illusion of 3D on a 2D surface, kinda like the height map, but it doesn't actually modify the geometry. It tells the program how to reflect light from it in a way that it appears 3D. It is used in games a lot and for very fine surface details in films. This is a roughness map, also a luminance map where white is fully rough and black is completely shiny. As you can see, it is a mix of grey, so our roughness will be somewhere in between. And lastly, the height map. This is like a mix of normal map and a luminance map. Whatever is white will extrude and whatever is black will intrude, and this will actually modify the geometry. The final step in this process is creating the shader network, connecting the files and applying it to the model. I won't bore you with the details because it's not important now. I set up a basic HDRI light and camera because just like in real life, in CG programs we always need these as well. And we are ready to render. And that's it! We're done! Mjolnir is now fully textured and looks as beautiful as the day I lost her. I mean, what? Anyway, here we go. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please hit the like button, and just in case your hand slips and you end up pressing the subscribe button, oh well, might as well leave it. In the next video, we will shatter Mjolnir and add the lightning effects in Houdini. It will be a really cool video, so make sure you check it out. In the meantime, have an amazing day and see you soon.